Hi, my name is Phil. I like to talk about politics. In this video, I'd like to have a short philosophical discussion on the nature of identity politics. It's prompted by a number of questions that have come my way from various sources. I had a little discussion with it on the Patreon live stream last weekend, but thought I'd go into it in maybe a little bit more detail, not too much. Now, it is one of these things I will have to say from the start. Identity politics can mean a lot of different things. Lots of people have a lot of views on it as well, but I'll try and focus in on what I think are the salient points here. But first, if you find yourself enjoying the video, then please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. So identity politics is essentially the idea that people vote according to a particular issue, or maybe a small range of issues that they link with their primary identity. And throughout a person's life, people may decide that some aspect of them is a more important part of their identity than others, so it can also change, of course. So some people identify according to their race or religion or gender. In the UK at the moment, there are a great many people giving prominence to their identity as either a Remainer or a Leaver in the disunited kingdom of Brexit land. And it is a powerful concept because it has shaped the fortunes of political parties, particularly in 2019, once it became clear to everyone that Brexit was maybe not as simple as some people had promised. The Liberal Democrats made large gains due to their uncompromising and clear anti-Brexit stance. The Conservatives have lost support by abandoning the centre-right flank in order to sweep up the hardline Leaver vote. It has so far paid off in that they remain ahead of the other parties in the polls, but behind their level of support before 2019, so it still cost them overall share. Labour have lost a great deal of support too. It picks up whenever they've adopted policies such as, say, offering a public vote with Remain as an option and promising to campaign for Remain against a Conservative Brexit deal. But it also dipped when they announced that they wanted to pursue a Brexit deal of their own and take us out of the EU. Now, the Brexit positions have cost the two largest parties lots of seats in both the local and European elections earlier this year. But not everyone who would vote in a general election will base it on their identity politics. They will absolutely do this in local and European elections, which people in the UK largely don't really take seriously, unfortunately. But it's a different attitude for many in a general election. But only for many. There are still millions who will absolutely vote on the single issue that they most associate with their primary identity. This is why Boris Johnson is desperate to force his party to the extreme right wing. He fears the Brexit Party, a group who have no policies and only a single message: leave the EU. The rise of the Brexit Party alone is proof positive that identity politics is going to be a major factor in the general election, perhaps even a decisive factor. But the question sometimes is whether this form of identity politics is a good thing, and wouldn't it be better to focus more on overall policies? Well, yes and no. Focusing on the full range of policies is more important in my view, but it also takes a more committed attitude to politics. The vast majority of people simply do not know what the policies are of the party or candidate they eventually vote for, much less the other candidates. Sometimes you can quiz people about this, and some people think they know what the policies are for whoever they're voting for, but then when you actually ask them, it turns out they're wrong. And this is mostly because people get their policies from the media rather than reading what the party itself has published. And this is where there is a huge problem with voting on policies. Take Labour, for example. I know that a Labour government would provide decent funding for the NHS, for schools and colleges, for the police. They have the right ideas about delivering better public transport, and they will certainly not be shoveling billions of pounds of public money into the pockets of people who have more than enough to live a life of luxury for the rest of their life. But Boris Johnson is promising to provide more funding for the NHS, for schools, for the police, and he says he can do it all with tax cuts as well. It's a clear lie, but not an obvious one to many people. Take his claim about the 20,000 more police officers. That is a lie on two levels. First of all, the Conservatives have cut police numbers by 21,000 since Labour were last in power. So even providing 20,000 new police officers now would still represent a net cut of 1,000. You're still 1,000 police officers less. You would also be getting these police officers over a period of years, as we can't train that many at once. And they'd all be inexperienced as opposed to the range of experiences the lost 21,000 would have represented. But the second lie is that it isn't even 20,000 new police officers. When you read the details, which almost nobody does, it's actually between 13 and 14,000 police officers. It's 20,000 staff, but the rest of them are not police officers. So it actually represents still a cut of 7,000 to 8,000 police officers compared to the last Labour government. But the policy is 20,000 new police officers, tougher sentences for offenders, which is also a lie, and safer streets. It's all a lie, but that's the policy as stated in the media, and that is the message that will get to people. So for a person looking at policies, Labour are promising funding for all these things at a significant cost, and the Conservatives are promising the funding, but with tax cuts. And this is why I focus less on policies and more on what a party or politician will actually do. I won't vote Conservative because what they will do is worlds away from the policy statements in the media. Another example of why to avoid this is in the Conservatives' promise on the living wage. Their media announcement is that they will raise the living wage, but the fine print says that it is subject to economic conditions. Needless to say, the economic conditions will never be deemed right to make good on this promise. But people aren't aware of that detail, only the policy announcement. This is also part of my opposition to Corbyn. I agree with his non-Brexit policy aims, but he and most of his cabinet are not competent enough to achieve them. However, they are at least honest about those policy aims. You know, when they say they're going to fund schools properly, they mean it. When they say they're going to fund the NHS, they mean it. They mean all of these things. Their detailed plans don't always convince me that they can carry them out, but they are always in line with their stated objectives. The only dishonesty at the moment is towards their Brexit policy. But very few of even the most ardent Labour supporters even know the policies of the party. It's a lot to take in, and even many of the ones who know the banner policies, like the aims, have not read the details of how they are to be achieved. It's simply too involved for a lot of people, unless you're sad like me, who likes reading all of these things. So given the reality of how little most voters actually engage in politics, isn't it potentially better for them to focus on a single issue or a small cluster of related issues, where they can at least have some degree of detailed knowledge and base their votes on that? For example, a nurse who wants to base their vote around what the parties are going to do for the NHS because they understand how the NHS works. Identity politics might seem narrow in its scope, but it does at least mean that most voters can have a chance of a genuinely informed decision. Certainly when compared to those who try to consider a wide range of policies, but get all their information from the media and party soundbites. But that's my view. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you'd like to support the channel further, then please click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.